On this vote, the ayes are 218, the nays are 211, with one answering present. The resolution is adopted.
Let's watch as Republicans finally said enough is enough. And Congresswoman Ilhan Omar got removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee after years of controversy surrounding her comments on Israel, America, and foreign policy. And what happened next? Total outrage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard from my colleagues the reasons why the Representative Omar should be removed from this committee, but I feel like all the reasons have not just yet been stated, which is why I rise to add for the record. We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well. I've been in that committee room where the representative equates Israel and the United States to Hamas and the Taliban. Absolutely unacceptable for a member of that committee. I've also heard the representative equate that it is the United States' fault that there is turmoil in Venezuela, that is not because of the oppressive socialist and communism that has spread throughout Central and South America in Venezuela at the hands of the Maduro and Hugo Chavez regimes. That is unacceptable. And as a New York representative, to hear the representative belittle, to try to diminish the worst terrorist attack on United States soil on September 11, 2001, as some people did something, that is unacceptable as well. And I hold the same standard for this side of the aisle that I do the other, because when another colleague on my side said something about 9/11, I also voted to have her removed from the Education Committee because I thought that was inappropriate. So I'm being consistent here, and I hope my colleagues will do the same to show that this is about consistency and accountability, because we should not have an individual with those views on the committee that is tasked with representing our country.
Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. House Resolution 713, censuring Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota and removing her from the Committee on Education and Workforce and the Committee on the Budget. Whereas Charlie Kirk was a lifelong advocate for freedom of speech, civil political discourse, and the political engagement of youth. Whereas Charlie Kirk was a man of deep faith, a husband, and a father to 2 young children. Whereas on September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on the campus of Utah Valley University while exercising his First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Whereas on September 11, 2025, one day after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Representative Ilhan Omar gave an interview on Zateo's town hall with Mehdi Hassan in which she smeared Charlie Kirk and implied he was to blame for his own murder. Whereas on September 12, 2025, 2 days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Representative Ilhan Omar reposted a video on X, formerly known as Twitter, which disparaged the character of Charlie Kirk and those mourning his death. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X states Charlie Kirk is dead, and before the body got cold, the far right propped his corpse up as a cudgel for their holy war. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states, don't be fooled. These people don't give a single shit about Charlie Kirk. They are just using his death to further their Christo-fascist agenda. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states Charlie Kirk was a reprehensible human being. He enacted his political agenda by preying on weak-minded people. He took complex socioeconomic issues and simplified them by pointing fingers at outgroups, demonizing those groups, and sicking his massive following on them. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states Charlie Kirk was a stochastic terrorist, an adamant transphobe. He denied the genocide happening in Palestine. He believed the subjugation of women, and in his last dying words, he was spewing racist dog whistles. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states, Charlie Kirk was Dr. Frankenstein, and his monster shot him through the neck. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further blames Charlie Kirk for his own murder. Whereas Clause 1 of Rule 13 of the Rules of the House of Representatives provides a member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, or employee of the House shall behave at all times in a manner that shall reflect credibility on the House. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar's actions in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk are reprehensible and affect the dignity and integrity of the proceedings of the House and do not reflect the credibility on the House. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee on Education and Workforce and removed from the Committee on the Budget of the House.
If you're enjoying this kind of coverage, make sure you subscribe right now, leave a comment, and let me know whether you think this decision was justified, because this debate exploded across Washington for a reason. What happened with Ilhan Omar being removed from the House Foreign Affairs Committee was bigger than just one vote. It became a symbol of how aggressively divided Congress has become, and how both parties are now openly using power against each other. Republicans argued this wasn't random retaliation. They said this was accountability. For years, Omar had been surrounded by controversy over comments critics called anti-Israel, anti-American, or deeply insensitive. Conservatives repeatedly pointed to remarks about Israel, Jewish lawmakers, and U.S. foreign policy that sparked backlash even from members of her own party. Democrats tried to brush many of those moments aside, but Republicans never forgot them. And here's the part that really fueled conservative anger. Democrats already opened this door first. Back when Democrats controlled the House, they removed Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar from committee assignments. At the time, Democrats argued that members who made inflammatory remarks or promoted controversial rhetoric should not hold influential committee positions. Republicans watched all of that happen. And once they regained control of the House, they decided to play by the exact same rules Democrats created. That's why conservatives saw the outrage over Omar's removal as completely hypocritical. Suddenly, Democrats were talking about fairness, bipartisanship, and dangerous precedents after spending years insisting committee removals were necessary for accountability. Republicans basically said, okay, if that standard applies to conservatives, then it applies to everyone. And politically, this was a massive moment for new House Speaker Kevin McCarthy at the time. He had promised conservative lawmakers during the Speaker battle that he would remove Omar from the committee if Republicans took power. So for many on the right, this was about following through on promises and proving Republicans were finally willing to fight back instead of constantly backing down. The media reaction was also predictable. Many outlets framed Omar as a victim of political revenge, while conservatives argued the media ignored years of controversial statements that would have destroyed a Republican politician instantly if the roles were reversed. And that double standard is really what this entire fight exposed. Because whether people personally like Omar or not, the bigger issue became whether Congress now operates entirely on retaliation politics. One side removes members, the other side responds by removing theirs. Then everybody acts shocked when the cycle continues. But conservatives would argue Democrats lost the moral high ground the second they normalized weaponizing committee assignments against political opponents. Another thing that stood out was how emotional the debate became on the House floor. Omar and her allies framed the move as targeting her identity and background, while Republicans insisted this was strictly about her record and public statements. That clash turned the entire moment into a national political flashpoint almost instantly. And honestly, this is part of the broader frustration many Americans have with Washington right now. Every issue immediately turns into political warfare. Every action becomes retaliation for something that happened before. Nobody trusts the other side anymore, and both parties increasingly view politics as total combat instead of persuasion. But Republicans believed voters sent them to Washington to stop playing defense all the time. Conservative voters were tired of watching Democrats aggressively use institutional power while Republicans hesitated to respond. So when Omar was removed, many on the right viewed it as Republicans finally showing they were willing to use power the same way Democrats had been using it for years. Whether people agree or disagree with the decision, there's no question this moment became one of the defining political clashes of that Congress. It wasn't just about one committee seat. It was about power, precedent, hypocrisy, and the growing belief in Washington that every political weapon used by one party will eventually be used by the other. And the scary part is that this cycle probably isn't ending anytime soon. Because once one side changes the rules of political warfare, the other side rarely chooses restraint. They usually choose escalation. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was removing Ilhan Omar justified accountability, or was it pure political revenge? And if you want more coverage like this, hit subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.